This video is a film study slash commentary or reaction video number 2 to the Lions' 48-42 loss to the Bills in Week 15. There's a lot to analyze and say about it, a number of angles that you can take from the loss, specifically with so many injuries occurring once again in the game. I am going to show some film here that's going to focus on the Lions' opening 3 possessions, which was 2 important stops by a Bills defense that I think for parts of the day played about as well as they can and still gave up 42 points. It very easily could have been more. In fact, the fumble by St. Brown is a huge difference here. In the third quarter, it occurred after the Lions' only stop of the day, their only organic stop of the day on defense, when they're down 28-14. And then, of all things, to immediately happen or almost immediately happen thereafter is a fumble by St. Brown, one of the most reliable, sure-handed, balanced football players in the league. When we do go over some film here, it's going to be, again, of the first 3 possessions. Some unique stuff by the Bills. A number of corner slash nickel blitzes, well hidden, almost look like automatic reactions to particular formations by the Lions. I don't want to say they guessed right. I think that sounds quite unfair. Very prepared defensively. And 2 instances, I think, of them selling out to stop the run on early downs that some would describe as risky, perhaps even unsound to a certain extent, but they got away with it. Very gutsy. The corner blitzes were effective. Milano being available, also a big boost for them. Him and Taron Johnson are mainstays. They've been in Buffalo for a long time. I did think their defensive line won a higher percentage of battles against the Lions' offensive line than anyone would have expected. Really, I have to think back to like that 4-game stretch around this time in 2023, in fact, when Detroit went 2-2 and was fortunate, in fact, to not be 1-3. And the Bears and Packers D lines, respectively, really gave them trouble. The catastrophic injuries on the defensive side that have now been compounded, obviously, by David Montgomery's MCL injury puts him out. I think he got surgery, so probably out for the rest of the year at this point. Along with the way that the Bills' defense played early, I think was a huge differential. 48-42 probably feels like 50-22 to certain Lions fans. I understand it, so I want to help you if I can. I'm a person from a fan base that has been here before, and what I mean by that is dealing with an insane amount of injuries of a serious nature. The difference here is the Lions team is a legit Super Bowl contender prior to this latest round of injuries. So if you're not sure about what I'm talking about, or you have no awareness of it, the Ravens went through something very similar to this. The only difference is it happened in training camp. Just an unbelievable amount of season-ending injuries. I believe 3 ACLs torn in a span of 2 days, perhaps 3. We lost Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, training camp 2021, our 2 starting running backs. An all-pro caliber corner in Marcus Peters. Look, before that injury, he was an absolute ball hawk, coming off of a 4-interception season in 2020. He also had one in the playoffs that year. Those 3 guys, I think they went down in a 2-day stretch, maybe a 3-day stretch. It ruined our season and the talent on the offensive side. Eventually, Marlon Humphrey goes down on IR. I think the last 5 games. Maybe he got injured in the 6 games before the end of the season. We had a really tough, gritty defensive lineman named Derek Wolfe, who had played well for us. He performed extremely well in 2020. Didn't play a snap in 2021, but there was video or pictures of him out there like hunting and carrying like wild animals. Just a very unusual season for Ravens fans to deal with. Look, Peters might have been the biggest loss of all of them. You didn't show up to hear me talk about this, but I'm utilizing this to try to emphasize to you or illustrate that I've been through this before and Ravens fans have as well. Peters, before that injury, that ACL, had 31 picks in 6 seasons, and somehow Lamar and the offense was able to will us to 8-3 before he got hurt and went down for the last 4 or 5 games of the year. With Lamar out and Humphrey out as well, it was over. It was really over before then. But I think it was probably less frustrating than what Lions fans are going through now, because this is an extremely deep, talented, tough, and well-coached roster that Brad Holmes and those guys have put together. If you want to think of it this way, I do sympathize with Lions fans being frustrated. I would caution you to try to ignore the people out there who are saying every team has injuries, and in some cases, those fans might be Detroit Lions fans. It sounds those are people who like probably failed critical thinking classes or even high school altogether. You can't compete with Josh Allen and what they're doing on the Buffalo Bills offense without Aiden Hutchinson, Davenport, Barnes, Anzalone, Rodriguez, Melifonwu, and then CD3 goes down. He's been playing amazing football recently. I mean, a broken jaw, how do you even predict something like that with a helmet on? It seems rare to me. McNeil, I think, is an ACL. Montgomery, an MCL. It's catastrophic at this point. Let people from other fan bases say what they want. The reality is, I do think, even still, the Detroit Lions team that I know, that I've watched, they'll show up in battle. They'll compete. And I think the reason why so many voices are so loud right now from other fan bases is they're celebrating. It's kind of sickening when you think about it, that they would celebrate injuries to other people that affects their livelihood. But it's because they know the caliber of the team that's been assembled in Detroit. They know what it's like now in the last 2 years plus to face a Lions team that's got depth and well coached and plays very physical. The unfortunate thing is the Bills absolutely out-physical Detroit over the course of the 60-minute game. I will get to the film here in a moment. I know it's been a long lead-in, if you will. This is generally just commentary from a perspective of a fan base that's been there before. Although 2021 Baltimore compared to this season for Detroit, not the same thing. In no way, shape, or form was the Ravens Super Bowl contenders at 8-3 with all of the missing pieces. We were a paper tiger. That's not the way I look at this Detroit team at all. Dan Campbell is going to have this group show up to win, meaning next week in Chicago. The margin for error, smaller, no doubt. Moving forward, the way you have to play football at times might change. The chances of hosting the NFC playoffs clearly lowered, maybe gone. But I do believe in this Lions team's ability to adapt, specifically the coaching staff and on offense. I'm not really going to address Campbell's onside kick decision here. I'm sure it's been talked about all day. I talked about it in my reaction video Sunday night that I re-uploaded on Monday because I had a huge mistake with some of my graphics. So I re-uploaded it with the correct stats. Nor am I necessarily going to focus on Jared Goff's borderline heroic efforts yesterday. I think that's going to be a standalone video for Tuesday. He throws for 494 yards. 5 touchdowns, and no interceptions while the running game is absolutely non-existent. That kind of goes against so many of the things that have been said about Jared Goff for years. Like I said, I think that's a topic for its own video. I hope to get that done by Tuesday afternoon for you guys. So let's look at some of the offensive problems early on, specifically the first 2 possessions. Now, Goff and their offense did rebound. 3rd and 4th possession, they go touchdown. And also had a long field goal attempt with like 45, 46 seconds left in the second quarter that would have closed them to 21-17. But the damage to the defense, the game flow overall had been done in the initial 13 minutes. The Bills get 2 stops. Their offense scores twice to go up 14-0. To that point, Buffalo had over 150 yards of offense, while Detroit had managed just 3 yards on 8 plays. So how did they get that done against a Lions team that's got an amazing offense? Let's check out the film here. And we'll pretty much just go through the first 3 possessions. It's going to be a long video, to be honest with you. First play of the game here. Interesting that on a play action fake, whatever these guys are keying, whatever they're seeing here, check out their reaction to this. First play of the game, play action boot, versus their reaction when actually is a run play in this video that I'm going to show you. They just were playing extremely fast. This looks like essentially a cover 2. Really great awareness by the corner up here to look for work, find work from the other side of the field. Essentially, he's looking for those deeper dig routes, and sure enough, that's what you get right here by St. Brown. Because there's no other work here, no other routes that emanate or develop at all to that side of the field, that corner is able to focus on St. Brown and really take away an option for Jared Goff that could have been there and, in fact, oftentimes was there so far this year. The way the Bills got it accomplished, have to give them credit for it. Patrick rolled across the formation and initially tries to block, and Milano is the guy who takes the flats. As a result, this corner is able to look for work from the opposite side of the field. It's not that other teams don't do this. It's not that other teams can't get this accomplished. The Bills just had all the answers early on. And no disrespect to the Bills' defense, I didn't see this defense on film. Haven't seen them on film consistently for 2024. And again, they still gave up 42 points, still gave up 400 and I think 44 yards of offense, maybe a little bit less than that. 544 yards of offense, something like that. It was insane what the Lions were able to do, specifically in the last 18 minutes of gameplay, scoring 28 points to stick around and give themselves a shot. So this is 2nd and 10, the very next play on the first possession. It's Jumbo 13, so 3 tight ends on the field, one of which is Skipper, and the third tight end is lined up in the backfield. And look at what the Bills are in. It's a run concept. They absolutely destroy the scheme. It's almost like they knew the plays. Now, that's not actually what I think, but sometimes defenses are just so prepared, and that you can see these guys were communicating about the motion. When he motions across, I think it's a Bishop, the rookie, 24. Looks like a blitz by 43. Goes to the top side of the left guard here. Allows Milano to fit underneath, essentially unblocked. Can't get to him. Oliver also folds over the top. They had all the right answers. They had a scheme for pretty much every situation early on, especially on this first possession. Oliver and Milano basically pick him up. I mean, when have you seen that happen to the Lions? You could tell on the first possession the level of physicality was different. They were the more physical team. Their defense against the Lions offense, particularly early. 3rd and 10. They drop to a cover 3. Here's your 4 underneath. 3 deep coverage. Free safety in the middle of the field against Bishop. Goff unable to get this to Jamison Williams 3 different times on the day. Lions players fell down at home. Gibbs on the screen one time. Williams from the top side. Sitting down on the hash. You also have Laporta. And then a wheel/vertical designed to hold the deep corner. Goff's trying to stick this throw in between the curl flat defender and the hook to curl defender. The Bills get a stop on their first possession. They're playing extremely fast. One of the things I noticed when they came to Baltimore earlier this year was how slow they were at the 2nd and 3rd level. It was just really noticeable. The difference in foot speed was drastic. Not Sunday against the Lions. Were they to line up completely healthy? Could things be different next week? A month from now, if these teams are able to, or 2 months from now, if these teams are able to face off again in the Super Bowl, who knows? But on Sunday, the Bills looked absolutely more athletic, swarming, playing faster than the Lions' defense was able to get off, at least in the first 2 possessions. Second possession here, down 7-0, only 4 minutes into the game. I mean, the Bills' offense just screamed down the field. This is a run blitz, and it's a little, I don't know what word to use to describe it other than unsound, unless you've got a pretty good inkling of what's coming. Again, it's first play of the second drive, 11 personnel, and you've got a nickel blitz off the edge, and the safety, Bishop, coming downhill. I remember watching this, and I was like, how did he get there? Additional to that, since the tight end, Brock Wright, is stepping across to try to get the edge defender, you've got the left tackle handling Taron Johnson, and they're trying to pick up the safety with the wide receiver here. They just don't get to him because 24's reaction and or his blitz path. I don't really think it's a blitz. I think these guys are just communicating really well, and they've got a great idea of what's coming. For whatever reason, their game prep must have been spectacular. That he's off screen to our right. Like I said, it's Bishop, who I mistakenly identified as Rapp earlier in the video. So here's Taron Johnson blitzing, getting picked up by the left tackle. You can see these guys have got leverage here, and Bishop fits directly underneath of it in the open space. Really nothing for Gibbs to get done on a split zone concept. Ends up being a gain of 1 yard. creates a 2nd and 9, and they do get the first down here, snag flat concept by Patrick. Patrick's going to stick this thing down here, and then that's Laporta out into the flats. Patrick sticks his foot in the ground, turns around, makes the catch. Goff getting rid of the ball quick. Ends up being a 10-yard gain, pick up their first down on the 5th offensive play. Really thought they'd be able to get more done against some of the zone defenses that the Bills play. I don't think that's a man defense over there from a majority of the gameplay standpoint. I think they're going to have trouble if they play a lot of man. But yesterday, even when they did play man, I didn't think Detroit made them pay, particularly early on. This is the ensuing play. Again, we're talking about second possession, down 7-0 at this point, 12 personnel ace. And again, you've got just the perfectly timed blitz for the play call. This is Ravens stuff from Mike McDonald from when he was in Baltimore. Double blitz, double bullet, whatever you want to call it, double fire. Both corners blitzing off the edge. Backside guy totally unblocked because Jared Goff's a right-handed quarterback. And on the play action, his back is turned. Running back picks up one of the blitzers, can't pick up the other. Ravens did some of this stuff to the 49ers, particularly last year. Late in the season, it almost looked like a glitch that you would see on Madden. It works out just absolutely perfectly for the Bills. Like I said, they had the right call in so many situations, particularly early. So Montgomery is picking up, I believe it's Elam. And then this is Benford off the edge, loss of 8 yards. Really short circuits the rest of that possession, creates a 2nd and 18. Speed out to St. Brown up top, kind of inconsequential. You can see that you've got 4 under. Looks like a cover 3, but it's a solo or Louis side, meaning once you get motion across by Tim Patrick, you can call this a cover 3 if you wish, but with the running back to the field, along with 3 receivers, we're essentially talking about a man freedom to react here by Elam. St. Brown with the catch, quick speed out. Elam, a guy that I wouldn't expect to be able to handle St. Brown in any man-to-man situation. In that case, 2nd and 18 on speed out, able to make a quick tackle, hold him to a 5-yard gain. Doing a nice job of switching coverages on the first 2 possessions. This is the 3rd and 13, very next play. From a too-high safety structure, it looks like they had just checked to like a Tampa 2 version here with a corner in the flats, half-field safeties here and here, and then Mike linebacker / strong safety type who would run with any type of vertical. Goff unable to get anything off because I think it's Oliver with the strip sack, in fact, against the left guard. Really brutal. The way that they played downhill, again, you have to give them credit. They played faster than I anticipated. Really nice job of calling coverages for the down and distance and the routes that the Lions ran. I would call this like a star concept where you have 1 in and 4 out. Nobody necessarily open. I mean, maybe you could say, we're going to try to stick this throw in this lane here, depending on the concept, depending on the route that Jameson Williams is running. But you can see he's taking off vertical. Nothing really available for Goff at all with the pressure that's put on him. And by the time he gets the ball back a second time, it's 14-0. Left guard beat here by Oliver. Same play. It didn't seem like 2 or 3 guys were getting beat on one play. It just seemed like there was a critical loss on multiple pass concepts at inopportune times. I guess we can put it that way. So they've fallen behind 14-0, like I said, and they get the ball back. Try to start to ride Jahmyr Gibbs a little bit and at least give him opportunities to get the football in this 3rd possession. And look, they did. The reality is they did come up with some answers. They were able to get yards and get a touchdown to get within 14-7, also get within 21-14, matching the Bills' 3rd touchdown, match their missed field goal. Unfortunately, that one would have closed it to within 21-17. late in the quarter. We will go over the third possession here. It says about 2 minutes left, maybe 2:10 in the first quarter. They've walked the safety down. I just think it's so interesting. The times when there are run plays, the Bills have brought extra players into the box. Again, there just seems to be this level of game prep by the Bills that hadn't been present against the Lions so far this year. First down, run play, loss of 2 yards for Gibbs, whether it's to the left side or the right side. You just don't see a ton of these things, and you certainly don't see a ton of them where you've got backside run-throughs by inside linebackers. These are rarely seen by me, at least in my film study, although the run game hasn't been as dominant, as effective here recently, to be blunt. 2nd and 12 here from their 28, talking about a minute 35 left in the quarter. Gibbs and St. Brown in the backfield together. Screen to Gibbs he makes magic happen here, man. This is 13 yards to get out of bounds. As a defensive tackle, I thought live that this could have been maybe called a penalty. You see the white sideline as the defensive tackle, so it's not like you're in an unusual situation. He does make contact beforehand. It kind of looked, watching it live, I thought that maybe they could have called it, but I see now why they did not. Great hustle. Just gives you an example or illustration of how fast those guys were playing, that on this screen to one of the best athletes on the field, on any field in the NFL for that matter, Jahmyr Gibbs. It's a defensive tackle making the stop, 13, 14 yards downfield, albeit after Jahmyr Gibbs gets the first down. Skipper is eligible on the ensuing play, and he's like standing up initially. Of course, he did have a touchdown catch in this game. And one of the things that we may see more of, which is just, I call it down base, blocking everybody down, leaving the strong side corner unblocked, and forcing him to deal with your running back, in this case, Jahmyr Gibbs. Bounces it to the outside against Benford. A foot race is a mismatch for Gibbs against pretty much anybody. In this case, he gets 9 yards around the edge where really there wasn't anything there. Creates a 2nd and 1, and then I think Ben Johnson recognizes here that the depth of the problem of what's going on. It's 12 personnel, so you got 2 tight ends on the field. Down 14-0. You do have the ball at the 50, and we're right at the end of the first quarter. I believe he might have been going for a touchdown here on the toss pass. So it's a toss to Montgomery, and you've got, I think that's Jamison Williams at the bottom side of the screen, and then St. Brown running the over concept. Essentially, I think a lot of people refer to this as Yankee. Montgomery gets it back across the field, and you can see that I think it's Milano trying to run underneath of St. Brown. Corner is holding with Jamison Williams. They really don't have a choice. Ends up getting 24 yards. The core strength of St. Brown twice was on display yesterday, whereby he's getting hit low, and just really it's almost like it doesn't affect him at all. Same play from the end zone angle. But Montgomery's throwback was a little bit of a floater for a guy who played high school quarterback and threw a touchdown pass earlier this year. 24 yards to finish the first quarter. Kind of let you know, okay, Detroit's here. They've got an opportunity to score. My apologies. Got an opportunity to score and get back in the game. First play of the second quarter here. Going to be incomplete to Jamison Williams. I'm not sure what's going on this concept. It's 11 personnel. And so Laporta is running up the hash. This safety, Bishop, is clearly hedging over to take it. Jamison Williams running up the sideline. I guess Goff is trying to stick this in between these two defenders. There's really not much space. You can really see it here. Perhaps it's an intentional throwaway by Goff because he's got such a high level of awareness, number one. Number two, if he doesn't get what he thought he was going to coverage-wise, I don't think he's going to put the ball in a bad spot. I mean, maybe he's hoping that Jamison Williams is just going to sit down a little bit more instead of taking that route more vertical up into the corner, Elam, play into the boundary. Again, this is first play of the second quarter, down 14-0 at this point. We know how this drive ends. So Goff had 3 examples of using his agility, which is underrated. I think Romo even called him a 5'5" guy. You can see what I mean. Jamison Williams continued on vertical, and I think Goff believed that he was going to sit down and stop because there was a corner over the top of him. Ends up being a 2nd and 10, and we've got Gibbs on another run concept. St. Brown in the backfield with him, motioning out. I love this look. I love St. Brown being able to motion to either side. Kind of like a trap concept to Gibbs. One of the few times you saw them get vertical, where a running back, either Montgomery before he got hurt or Gibbs, has got some vertical steam and a lane to get out and make moves and possibly take something to the house. The safety played a hell of a game. Bishop, I didn't know he was that good. I knew he was a good football player. Obviously, he's in the NFL, and he had a great reputation, but I didn't know he was this good. He played at an extremely high level Sunday, not just in coverage, but making tackles here. He's the only guy there to take on and make first contact with Gibbs. It is a 13-yard gain. Tried to feature him on this drive. This one's a run concept to Gibbs up the middle on a 1st and 10. Same play concept, basically, that they just ran. Trap. The only difference is they're pulling the guard to get it done. In this case, it's Kevin Zeitler. Just look at the body language and the orientation of the Bills defenders on run concepts. They just had a great idea about run-pass tendencies. I don't think Ben Johnson called a terrible game. I'm just not willing to say that when they scored 42 points. Having said that, I wonder what the Bills see or saw in some of these situations that they were able to be. You can tell me if you think I'm over-exaggerating. On some of these run plays, it's like they've got extra players there, and then when it's a play-action pass on 1st and 10, maybe preceding that run concept, magically there's just nobody there. The Bills' game prep, I think, was exquisite. I'm a huge fan of defenses coming in prepared, and even though I'm certainly not rooting for the Bills against pretty much any team that they play, but specifically not the Lions or the Ravens, have to give them credit in this regard for coming in prepared and absolutely shutting down the Lions' run game to the tune of less than 3 yards per carry for Montgomery and for Gibbs. 2nd and 9, the screen, Gibbs falls down. It's just, this happened. There's so many things had to go wrong for the Lions to be down by 2 touchdowns multiple times at home, number one, but also to end up losing in a game when they still scored 42 points. Very anomalous, if you ask me. Speaking of anomalous, you've got a 3rd and 9 from Buffalo's 12, and Jared Goff is going to extend, create space, slash time, and find Tim Patrick down at the bottom side. Tim Patrick's 3rd touchdown, I think, in the last 2 games played, out of an empty formation. I was like, before this play, I don't know about you, I was like, you know what? If they don't get the first down, they might be going for it, just knowing Dan Campbell. So Goff has escaped out of here, and I think he's going to make it look like he's going to run at one of these defenders at the 2nd level, and then brings it back to Tim Patrick over to the right. I think some of this fake, this gesticulating here, once he's moving downhill at an angle, I think he knows where he's going with the football right about here. So he starts looking off here, pointing and even faking. I think he's just holding defenders is all that's happening. Super high level awareness guy. Patrick is able to dive, get it into the end zone. Did a video on Tim Patrick last week if you're interested. It hasn't been cut up yet by the NFL/YouTube content ID system, but at some point it probably will. This one got the Lions within 14-7. This will be the last play that I show. I didn't think the pass pro was that awful for the Lions on the day, but there were situations where Ed Oliver, clearly he gave the interior offensive lineman trouble. Buffalo did end up with 3 sacks on the day and 10 quarterback hits. I felt like they seemed to come in clusters, though, early in the game, and then a couple of passing situations late where pretty much everybody knew that Goff and Ben Johnson and those guys were going to rely on the pass game. This one is not necessarily a fun video for me to try to produce, to be real, because it's so rare to see Detroit get out-physicaled. And for the Bills defense to have done that, it really still catches me by surprise. And I watched most of the All-22 video Monday morning, and then super busy day for me, so was finally able to rewatch it and kind of cut up some of it to produce for you guys tonight, Monday evening, after the Monday Night Football game. I'm still not sure that if these two teams play again 6 days from now, I don't think that the Bills I don't think that the Bills can outscore them if the Lions have any semblance of a healthy defense on the field. At this point, it's difficult to say who will even be able to play in Chicago and then against the 49ers in San Francisco, and then finally in the final divisional round of the game, divisional game of the season, against the Vikings in week 18. Moving forward, offensively without Montgomery, the running back depth just changes the dynamic dramatically. How you not all of a sudden try to get Gibbs the ball a ton more is beyond me. But additional to that, you don't want to lose him, so overwork him. They've got to get Vaki or Reynolds more involved. Although I think those two guys will be situational. I do have a theory, a question or out there. Do you think it could become a more pass-heavy offense? I think it's possible because Goff can handle it. He's now approaching his career high for touchdowns in the season. He's got 30. He needs 2 more. He's also completing 71.4% of his passes, career high. He also has the highest yards per attempt of his career and the 3rd highest yards per completion. They've won shootouts before. This particular one was an uphill battle all the way for a lot of reasons. Number one, you have to give credit to Josh Allen and the Bills' offensive staff. They created conflict. They took advantage of the depth, or lack thereof, I should say, for Aaron Glenn's defense. Really, the group they rolled out there was barely capable of taking away certain things without overcompensating him and opening yourself up to other play concepts or counters. Allen and his unique skills just made it all the worse. Against other quarterbacks that you faced in 2024, do I think that Aaron Glenn's group could have maybe held things down and allowed the Lions offense to control things and win 34-31? Yeah, I do. But once you suffer 2 more injuries to extremely important players, Aleem McNeil and CD3 are irreplaceable. I just don't think it's possible, especially when you fall behind 14-0, 21-7, and then 28 and then 35-14 in the 3rd quarter. And that's where I'm going to spin this a little bit. I think, for me personally, I have to give credit to Goff, Ben Johnson, the guys on offense. They put up 28 points in the final 18 minutes, a furious attempt at a comeback. They averaged 6.8 yards per play. St. Brown, 14 catches for 193, had the touchdown of 66 yards. The Lions have the pieces on offense to score with anybody. That's just my belief. The margin for error now is definitely smaller. Even one turnover in the wrong situation or the wrong location on the field could open up the possibility of the other team gaining separation because the defense is compromised from a personnel standpoint. I still do think that despite the overwhelming reasons and justification for Lions fans being frustrated, pissed off, and disappointed, and you should be disappointed. This was the best team in the NFL for 10 or 11 weeks in a row to me. I do want to try to offer to you, suggest to think of it this way. On Sunday, your defense was totally outmatched from a talent standpoint. Some of the things the Bills did schematically took advantage of Aaron Glenn's man defense tendencies. Those things were there on film. Josh Allen, incredibly talented. He put on a show. 430 yards of offense by himself. The running backs went off, which we needed to hold them down. I identified that in one of the preview videos. The Bills' defense played great in the first quarter and got a turnover in the second half. Those 3 stops, or those situations, 2 stops and the turnover, those are the difference. Even on a day when McNeil, Montgomery, CD3 go down, you still have the ball with 2 minutes left, down 10, holding on to 3 timeouts in the event that you get a quick score in an onside kick. Now, those onside kicks are clearly low percentage, lower now that you have to declare them. If the NFL Competition Committee, I use that with air quotes, if they can't see how flawed and irredeemable the dynamic kickoff rules are, I don't think you actually have a competition committee. Detroit, nonetheless, is still there at the end, fighting against a team that is probably as good as anyone in the last 10 to 12 weeks. Buffalo's won 8 of 9, and including wins at home against the Chiefs and on the road against the Lions. Those two were regarded as the two best teams in the NFL, or two of the top three, along with the Eagles. It took all of that for your Lions team to lose by 6 points. You can call me crazy, and I am, because I sat and worked on this for a significant amount of time Monday night. And when I knew that a lot of pissed off Lions fans probably aren't even going to watch it, but I still think they can compete. And you did on Sunday. And are they close to or teetering on the edge of being physically incapable defensively of winning tough games like they did on the road already against the Vikings, Texans, and then at home against the Packers? Sure. But there is evidence, even from yesterday, that Dan Campbell's group isn't going anywhere. Physically, emotionally. I hope you can hold that line too, because I can reflect in this way, because around the time that I started to cover the Lions was a little over 24 months ago. Probably 24 months ago, plus 5 or 6 weeks, somewhere in that range. What they've put together in the last 24 months, last 12 months, the last 12 weeks, in my opinion, is still worthy of your attention and, in many cases, your admiration. However deeply flawed the team is now, and we all know that's just a result of injuries and nothing else. I hope in the next 6 days that you and obviously the Lions team is going to recover and show up to Chicago, I think, ready to win. There's a lot of pride in that locker room, a lot of pride in that organization. They're not going to fold, I don't think, no matter who they play against and no matter who they have to suit up on the defensive side of the ball. I think it's going to be an amazing three weeks to finish the season against the Bears and Vikings. Those are sandwiched around another trip to San Francisco, and then the playoffs await. We just don't know where and against whom the Lions will be playing in the first or second round. Appreciate you guys' time, man. If you enjoyed my commentary / film study here that did try to err on the side of being encouraging for you, please let me know in the comment section, number one. And number two, if you think other Lions fans would enjoy this, with the brief film study that I provided on the first 3 possessions of the game, where the Bills came out like gangbusters and halted all of Detroit's momentum and really out-physicaled the Bullies. If you think other Lions fans would at least enjoy my thoughts and the film study that I used to show how they did it, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.